So it's called Saturday Night Slam Masters, and you're damn right, you gotta open up a can of old whoop ass. Muscle them muscles, get your gimmicks ready, tape your wrists and fingers, get into gorilla position, and let's keep it kayfabe.
Don't sit out here and kayfabe like an idiot.
Come on, Rock. What? Kayfabe?
You're gonna have to jam the damn punch button a lot in this game. We're talking Saturday Night Slam, the A-Button Masters. Now we got a whole heap of wrestlers to choose from here. And some of these wrestlers might look familiar. You see, back in the territory days, wrestling was real popular in Japan. This game came out in 1993 when we were still hanging on to some of the glory days of pro wrestling. So we got Alexander the Greater, who was basically just Big Van Vader. We've also seen SNK games as Big Bear and Raiden. Now Big Van Vader was huge in Japan at the time. Monster! And his name directly comes from the legendary samurai warrior named Vader, which also links him, yes, to Darth Vader in a weird way. But also Greater literally comes out with the same big horned mask gimmick as Big Van Vader, so he's a literal one-to-one reference to that professional wrestler. You got Titanic Tim, who was basically Giant Baba and early 90s Kevin Nash, combined with some Andre the Giant thrown in. We've seen the latter in the final fight as Andor, and in the greatest fighting game ever made, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike as damn Hugo. He even does Giant Baba's trademark big boot kick, and it looks exactly the damn same. You also got Jumbo, who is like someone somehow stuffed Typhoon and Earthquake into one body and then put Animal from the damn Road Warrior's head on him. Jumbo's special attack is a green mist, which is an homage to Japanese wrestlers. Fighting game characters in Japan being referenced of American wrestlers is old hat. We've seen it with Abdullah the Butcher in Karnov's Revenge, and also my story is from that same game, looking a lot like the Bruiser Brody. You got Biff Slamkovich, who was basically just the Ultimate Warrior mixed with Hulk Hogan and with no face paint. And then you got Gunlock, who is Guile from Street Fighter, I guess. I guess you can make a case that he's like Sting with no face paint on. You know, what makes us even further weird as hell is Gunlock is in the Street Fighter the movie The Game, but he's disguised as a dude we found out is Guile's brother named Blade, which they reveal in his ending when you beat the game if you ever played all the way through that piece of shit. Which I guess, you know, this being a Capcom game, all the Street Fighter references make sense, because we got Hagar, who is from Final Fight, which was originally the sequel to Street Fighter 1 from the 80s, but got its name changed at the last minute. It was supposed to be Street Fighter 1989. Hagar's name in the game is Mike Macho Hagar, and he puts his daughter on his shoulder, which is maybe a reference to Macho Man Randy Savage doing that to Mrs. Elizabeth. Some people say Don Fry, Dan Severn, and although he looks like them, neither of these wrestlers turned MMA fighters were popular into this game was released, so it's doubtful they even knew that, you know, the makers, but it is fun to think about. We're repping the worldwide with the Luchadors with El Stingray and the Scorpion, who are likely some mix of Rey Mysterio Sr., Tiger Mask, Super Strong Machine, and Tenibles, or some combo of countless lucha wrestlers and or Japanese wrestlers that trained in the lucha at this time. We got the Japanese fighting spirit with the Great Oni, who was basically the Great Mucha, the Great Kabuki, and Akira Nogami mixed together. And then you got King Rastaman, who's from the Dominican Republic, but it says Venice Beach here, and he's basically just Blanca. But maybe you could argue like George the Animal Steel or WCWA Skandor Akbar era Cactus Jack Manson, who is the early Mick Foley with notably more teeth than he'd have in just a few short years later. Look at old Mick there. Damn. Now in the Sega version of the game there's an exclusive deathmatch mode, which given the fact that the Japanese basically invented the popularity of the deathmatch in real pro wrestling is pretty welcome here. We got barbed wire ring ropes and exploding charges.
A no rope barbed wire match, and then they go to the exploding barbed wire, then they go to the exploding ring, and like the electrified pool. it just got crazier and crazier and crazier.
And trusting the environment someone else has created for you. I'm not comfortable with that. And I've seen a lot of people get burned, literally.
It got too hot, way too fast. If it was a building, I would have jumped off it.
Anyway, you whip all the competitors' asses, twice mind you, probably because they ran out of memory on the SNES cartridge and they needed to justify the repetitive gameplay and rentals, and you get to the end like, damn, am I gonna fight that big son of a bitch from the intro? Now, he doesn't actually show up as a playable character to the sequel of this game called Ring of Destruction Slam Masters 2. So yeah, nothing much happens. It's just a run-in from these three random nerds, little jabronis. You know, Hagar said some shit about how you can eat a minute steak, which I had to look up. Turns out it's just a small steak that's quickly cooked. Anyways, once you open up a can of whoop ass on everyone's candy ass, you get the most hyper drum roll of any 90s cap game I've ever heard here at the end of Ring of Destruction Slam Masters 2.